order today. But before we get started with him, I want to thank Five Star Guitars. Five Star has been with us from the beginning. They've been supportive of us. They've got not only a great selection of guitars, but they do repairs and lessons. So if you've not seen this before, I'm pimping out some great pro lessons from people like Jennifer Batten. So if you go to
Oh, you're kidding.
now, man, you can get lessons from Jennifer by going to www.fivestarguitars.com. And cool thing about it is if you got that stimulus check and you're looking for places to spend it, you can price out a great guitar online. But if you go to Five Star Guitars, we've got no sales tax in Oregon. So they'll hook you up with a great deal. They got pro lessons, great repairs, and you can support local, which we appreciate. Now, I met this guy a couple years ago in person, but I first saw his smiling face about 3 decades ago on Much Music in Canada. He was the representation of VJs on music long before MTV had even come around for Canada. So we're going to talk all sorts of good stuff. We're going to talk about riots and his early high school days and growing medicine for our buddy Gene, everything in between. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for welcoming Michael Williams to me.
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How you been?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I talked to Jennifer Batten just about a couple of weeks ago because she's gonna be a guest on Isolation Island, and
wow.
I got her number from my friend Kat Dyson, who used to play with Prince.
Of course.
But Kat is from Montreal, and I'm from Montreal. I'm originally from Cleveland, but I moved to Montreal. And Kat's, I think, from Virginia, and she moved to Montreal as well. And she played with Prince for a number of years. She's with Cyndi Lauper now, Zucchero, and she is just a badass, man.
Kat's a badass. Jennifer's a badass.
Jennifer, oh, man.
They do a cool thing together. You know, they've done a couple of these sort of like intimate shows, sort of like what you did at Gord's event for Ed.
Like 100 people.
Yep, exactly. It's people. It's kind of a Q&A where they can answer a bunch of questions, and they talked about the days with Prince and Michael Jackson. Do some playing, break stuff down, have a little drink. So I think, that's a really special thing. And for those two, oh my God, man, they have such great stories.
I imagine. So I didn't talk to Jennifer for long because she was kind of busy. But Kat, I've known for life. I've known Kat since I was a lot younger than this, and when she was on Star Search, her band Chukon, I mixed 1 or 2 of the tracks that they sent in, the demos that they sent in to get the gig. I mixed a couple of those after rehearsal they did, and they were just a phenomenal band. And then Kat had her band with Rhonda. Her and Rhonda had a blues band that was just killing. And Kat also worked with the Montreal Jubilation Choir, and I filmed them for my show on Much Music. I had a show called Soul in the City, another one called Rap City, and I also did the Power Hour. And I would just go out and film things and make things happen long before people were into that.
Yeah, the remote shoots.
Yeah, man, I go with like 1 or 2 cameras, a couple of lights, a few microphones, and kamikaze, man. We would make it happen because we had to make it happen. Did you come home with the tape? I got the tape, baby. And it was exciting because Kat was just great. She played guitar and sang with the Montreal Jubilation Choir. And there was another lady, I don't know if you remember a band called Sword. It was a metal band called Sword from Canada out of Montreal.
I wish I did.
They were great. And I think the guitar player or the bass player, their last name is Hughes. I don't know what his first name was, but his sister's name was Lulu. Oh my God. She sang in the choir with Kat. Girl killed me. Man.
Yeah.
Girl, between her and Kat, it was no coming back from this. And they were doing the whole gospel thing because we do as much as we can to become as well versed as we can so that when we enter various musical arenas, we can do it with authority and authenticity and respect.
Amen.
And if we can do that and have the originators look at us and say, then I'm happy, man. I'm happy. Like I play with a gypsy band. I'm a member of another band out of New York City of all session players that play with Keith Sweat, Mary J. Blige, people like that. It's called the R&R Soul Orchestra. I'm the voice of the Soul Orchestra. Not singing as of yet, but I'm the talking voice.
Okay.
And my buddy Julio is the writer, producer of that. So I do that. Then I have a group here called Romani Rota, which is one of the original gypsy band out of Romania, Hungary, those areas,
Oh, wow.
Eastern Europe. And they now are they were refugees in Canada. Now they've immigrated and they live here. And I just ran up on them one day. I was hosting a show for a wonderful organization that helps immigrants when they arrive. And they asked me to host the show, and I said fine. And I'm doing the sound and hosting the show, right? And DJing the show.
I've seen you do this. I know you wear a lot of hats, man.
So it's like I'm doing this, and then what happened was we were sound checking the band, and their drummer hadn't arrived yet. And I said, well, look, I play a little bit, so I'll just sound check his gear, and he just has to sit down when he gets here. Yeah. And they said, okay, fine. So all of this is happening in a multilingual situation. They only speak like Romanian, Hungarian, and various gypsy dialects, no English.
Oh,
my Romanian, my Hungarian is null and void.
Okay,
but we spoke music. So I sat down in the spot and I said, okay, where's his drums? What am I playing? And they gave me literally a metal milk carton, you know, the type you find on the farm that you put the milk in.
Jug.
Yeah, metal milk jug. And I'm like, okay, and I had no tape on my hands or whatever, but I had to play it hard to get the sound check. And I played that, but I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's like when I was a kid and you would bang on the couch, you know, and that couch would give you a perfect sound. It would give you that, the sound of Black Sabbath, Masters of Reality. When I played the couch, you know, that was that sound. And so this would give you kind of a high pitch, not a bongo type sound, but it gave you a pretty unique sound that I wasn't really familiar with, except for beating my mom's pots and pans. And so I did that. And then I go and do the show, and I'm doing sound and everything. And, you know, I don't think about music like, oh, I'm a musician and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. I'm like, no, man, I never, you know, I don't rehearse. I don't do any of that. I feel like I'm not a musician because I know people whose fingers bled, you know, and mine didn't really bleed. My brain did, but my fingers didn't. And so I play at a couple things. I got guitars, I got bass, you know, and drum kits and all that. So I'm over DJing, whatever. And so they're on a break and they came to me. And in Hungarian, they said, you know, you want to come and play the last two songs with us? And I was like, who, me? You know, and they said, yeah. So I did. And we've been hanging ever since, man. And I'm executive producer. That was like probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And now I'm executive producer on all their product. And we just did a wonderful, wonderful track with a friend of mine who's Macedonian. He's like the Macedonian Quincy Jones. It's
Look at that,
Davor Jordanovsky and Voda. And I put them together in a little small place here, like Ed's place. Yeah. And it was like 60, 70 people max. The place was jammed. It had about 120, 130 people in there, man. And they were just wonderful. And so I would put the bands together so that they would meet each other and maybe some symbiosis, some magic would happen. You know what I mean? Some sort of synchronicity. And it did with this guy and the band. And it took about a year or so. But we have a new single out by them that I can't even pronounce, but it's absolutely great. So if you look on iTunes for Davor Jordanovsky, Davor, and Romany Rota, Romi, ROMIYI, you know, like Romany Rota, which means gypsy wheel. That's what it translates. You'll find a beautiful single from them, man. And it's really kind of cool. I think you'll like it. It's traditional music, you know, it's traditional gypsy Macedonian music. And it was something that I hadn't really delved in before, but my theory is this: if I can feel it, I can play it.
Yeah.
and or produce it or whatever. I've done some country stuff, and it was kind of neat because I got a song that was a country song by a famous Canadian piano player, and my buddy took the song and he wrote lyrics to it, and then I took like a 3-piece band that I had heard that I really liked and called a fiddle player, and I did the arrangement on it. And I'm so proud of that because it's authentic,
Yeah,
man. And that's the thing. It was going for that authenticity, And I mean, any type of music, I mean, for me, it's music, man. I mean, it's in our household, nothing had anything to do with color. It all had to do with feel.
This is you growing
taste.
up.
Yeah, feel and taste in Cleveland, and the sound of music. And my mother sang music. She always sang the hit songs of the day. But Mom, she doesn't know any of the words, but she knows the sound. And if she knows the sound around the words, she knows the feeling and the intent of the song. And so she would just sing, and and then we had my mom bought a Time Life set of records, the greatest music ever was, right? And so that's what we started out with, everything from Korsakoff to John Henry to folk songs to Odetta and stuff like that. And that was great. And the first live music that I ever heard, other than my mother singing, was the Cleveland Orchestra, because every kid in Cleveland, Ohio got to see the orchestra once or twice a year for free. We also learned the stories behind the music in music class, and we went there and it would be like Peter and the Wolf, and he would do that Leonard Bernstein thing, with kids, like the pop adult, young adult concerts, and quiz you about the music, but inform you about the music and the times that the music was done in and the composer. So you'd have a visual picture, that this looks something like a Robin Hood or an Ivanhoe movie, and he would say, like, okay, the Hunters, which instrument is the Hunters? And the Hunters would be the trumpets or something. Which instrument is the Wolf? And that would be the bassoons and stuff, And so we would yell, it's the bassoons, it's this. And it really just gave me a wonderful love for music. It doesn't matter what type of music it is, it's music. And like I say, if I can feel it, I can go in and play with it, play with other musicians and around it. But you must feel the same way too, In
a lot of ways. Yeah. I've painted myself into a corner sometimes because I love performing and playing music. I've got one of the guests I've got coming on this weekend. My earliest inspiration from a bandmate was this incredible bass player who was basically Jaco reinvented. I mean, he played Montreux Jazz Festival all the time, and I happened to be in this fusion prog band with him in early college, late high school days.
But that was a music we all wanted to play, man. We all wanted to play Return to Forever, Weather Report, Frank Zappa, Hot Rats, Jean-Luc Ponty. We had to play that shit before we got to Genesis and Vandergaff Generator and Gentle Giant and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? So it was like,
Well, my issue was that I tried to sit in with him a couple years ago, and my progression had slowed greatly compared to his. He's a professor at this university, and I was out of my league, bro. He wanted improv jazz, and I was left holding my
Were you left holding it?
It was about 10 years ago, man, and it stuck with me still, where I realized I found my limitations. And
shit.
But you know what? I love that you had that opportunity early in Cleveland, and you had the support from your mom to really get you into that. Did you take lessons at all with like?
I took some guitar lessons early on, and then when I was going to high school is when music got pulled out of the schools. So when they said, if you want to play an instrument, go to the band room today at 3:00, choose your instrument, talk to the professor. I went, and I guess I was the last one because there was nothing left.
Oh no.
But I wanted to play drums.
Yeah.
I wanted to play guitar. So every time I could get my hands on an instrument, I would just noodle, I would detune your guitar for you. I'd detune your drums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just did whatever I could. And they would let me come down to the band room, and I would go they had one room where they had nothing but drums, but they were marching drums for the marching band, but they were all set up, no cymbals and stuff. And I would just go in there and just bang my ass off and stuff like that. And I have a couple of drum kits. I got an electronic drum kit. I got hand drums that I had made in Barbados. I didn't have them made. Somebody made them. But the cool thing, this guy named Birdman, he does these incredibly wonderful handmade djembe drums and stuff. But here's the deal. You have to play with him before he sells you a drum.
Okay.
You have to play with him. You have to start with him, and you have to stop with him on time.
Okay.
Or he won't sell you the drum.
Oh,
like he's not selling a drum to be sitting anywhere.
Right.
He's selling a drum to be played. And the different sizes denotes the notes that you can get with the drums. And I bought 3 drums with him, so I played with him 3 times. And God. It was kind of a nice thing, especially to be doing it in Barbados. I mean,
were they 3 different trips, or did you go hang with him 3 times there?
Yeah, 3 different trips, man. Okay. 3 different trips. So that was kind of
cool. He remembers
you.
He shows up and he goes, "Oh, that's my guy."
Here,
man. Oh, that's
well. It was funny because I never really think of myself as a musician, like maybe a little bit now, but not very much. And Chris Isaacs came into Much Music to do an interview, and they were talking to journalists all across Canada, all across the US. And Chris said, "Hey, I'm going to do this thing," where he had his drummer, his percussionist and drummer guy was really very, very great. Yeah. And he would come, and he had like shakers and maracas, and Chris would play guitar, and they would give the journalists the maracas. So they gave me the maracas, and I'm like, and they're going, "Okay, can you, okay, can you, it's not going to be difficult. Just, okay, fine. Give them to me." Got them, and we go, I hear the tag, and they went.
He caught the break.
He caught it. He caught. Nobody else caught the break. You play. I don't know, a little bit. Whatever. So that was kind of cool. But that was a lot of fun. What's that?
They said you got the eyebrow raised. That's what.
Yeah.
Okay, this guy's.
And I'm a big Chris Isaac fan, man. He's done some of my favorite. There was one tune called "You Can't Take It With You" or something like that, off of San Francisco Days. Okay. Can't take it with. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So I mean, very soulful. Yeah. And I've liked Chris Isaacs from the beginning, those early albums. Yeah. And he's doing the sort of classic, almost rockabilly type thing. Right. Great sounds and stuff. But then when he got to Wicked, and all that kind of stuff, Wicked Games and all that, he really changed. And San Francisco Days was a nice change for him. And Can't Take It With You was like, I heard that and I went, "Oh man, that's the pinnacle of the shit that you're doing. You could stop right here, and not be bothered and like that." And I've had a chance from Much Music Days, which was a lot of fun. It was kind of like a dirty version of MTV, because we didn't have the money. We didn't have the, we had the TV gear, but we didn't have the money, man. We had a couch that was 4 different colors, that came out of the basement and shit like that. We had a guitar with like 5 strings on it, stuff like that.
Like MTV started off that way too, man. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I was talking to Alan Hunter and Downtown Julie Brown about it. And they said, "Oh yeah, man, there was no budget when that first started off." They said, we could barely turn the lights on, man. That's
it, man. And that's so much fun, because Much Music would send us any place in the world, because labels would go, "Oh yeah, we'll send you to England to go interview such and such." And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, Live Aid is happening and you're there, and these guys call home. I didn't do that, but they did. I was at home holding it down, and they're going like, "Yeah, I think we should stay. There's this big concert going to happen." And, you stay. And we would not have, we would go, Much Music would land on the spot. They give you $40 a day for a per diem. They would always lose you, you know. And I mean, I don't know about you, man. $40 of food a day. No, man, I got to have a little bit more than that's breakfast.
Yeah, I was just especially depending on in London, you're not eating on $40 a day, man.
Yeah, exactly, man. But they would strand you and, you know, and give you no food. But we would always come back with the cool shit where all the people that had all the money didn't get the cool stuff. We got the cool stuff, you know, in other words,
examples.
Well, like we would just, so I had just come from, I was in LA doing Burton Cummings, and he was getting ready for a big tour, and he was living in LA and all this stuff. So I do him then. And we just had a great time. I went to his live rehearsals and stuff, and Burton's voice sounds like it did when he was 16. Still. And then I get a call saying, okay, you can go do a few things maybe you want to do. So I go to George Duke's house. I go to Stanley Clark's place. I go to do, was it James? No, Jeffrey Osborne, Tevin Campbell. I do everything that's moving, man. I'm driving over to Tevin Campbell's place, and I almost hit Terrence Trent D'Arby because he's in LA making his second album, Neither Fish or Flesh, where he put a grand piano in the bottom of the pool to record it in a place that he rented, right? And so I pull the car into, I'm lost. I pull the car into a gas station in LA, and I'm like this close to another car. And then he jumps out, he goes, dude, you almost hit my shit. Dude, I know you. Dude, it was like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, you know? And you just run into people. I'm at the Riot House, which is the Sunset Marquee, right?
Yeah.
Where Led Zeppelin and everybody destroyed. Yeah. I'm there, and I'm doing Queen because they just done Innuendo, and that was the first album. That was when Freddie first got sick, and they weren't telling people he was sick. And they did it, and it was Hollywood Records, so that was Disney. This was like the party was on the Queen Mary boat, dude, with fireworks. They had animatronics, the whole thing. They had animatronic robots because Freddie couldn't be there, so they built a Freddie robot.
What? Oh my God.
They built a Freddie robot. The shit was off the hook. Wow. And the food and everything was incredible. So I go to the Riot House to interview Roger Taylor and Brian May. Wonderful, wonderful guys. Right. And me and Brian May really got along like a house on fire. And a friend of mine went to high school with him, and he used to play, they would cut classes and play guitar, you know, and they played guitars together and stuff. And I reminded him of that. And we just had a wonderful time. And so as I'm leaving, the first person I run into is Rebecca De Mornay. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Dude,
you can just stop right there, buddy.
Yeah. This is around the time she was dating Leonard Cohen, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And Leonard Cohen would do stuff like they're doing a video for Leonard Cohen, and Leonard's not smiling. So they take Rebecca De Mornay and they put her on a platform over Leonard.
So he'll smile.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And he can see up everything, you know? Yeah. Oh man. And she was just stunning, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm there at the buffet getting food, and she was smiling. She smiled at me, man. And you can see, and I was like, you know,
candy store.
She smiled, and I was just like, you know, I was an idiot. And then I go out with the food, and I'm going over to where I left Queen, and there's Simple Minds over there. The Simple Minds to the right of me.
Hold on a second, because Ed Sousa just jumped on here. He's going to freak out when you say that. So,
hey Ed, how you doing?
He's in the chat. He just said he joined. He got in just in time to see some class acts. But you mentioned Simple Minds, and his mind's going to blow. So let's hear it. All right. So
they're real good. They're good friends of mine from the radio days because I did radio in Montreal. So I went from Cleveland to Montreal. Went to university there, got my degree in communications, but I also worked in radio at Shom FM, which is a classic heritage station in Canada, just like WMMS is in the US, and that's in Cleveland. And all the people that worked at MMS and the classical station, all these people were my mentors. I would I was their gopher, man. I'd go for coffee, go for tea, whatever, I'd answer the phones, anything to hang out. And I did. And so I'm checking Simple Minds, and I see Jim and Charlie over here, and I go over and chat with them. Then I go over here and I'm walking down the lane, and I see little Steven, and I met little Steven before. And there are two people with their backs to him, and I go, Steve, how you doing, man? And, and then I go straight to him, and he says, do you know Bruce and Patty? Dude, I go, I immediately fall to my knees. Right. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. You are the boss. And I said, by the way, man, I said, it's hard to be a saint in the city. And New York City Serenade and The Wild, the Innocent, the Eat Street Shuffle, and Greetings from Ashbury Park. I said, those records saved my life, dude. And I just want to thank you, and I said, Trapped is a great fucking version of a Jimmy Cliff song. And I just said, and I just said, thank you. And they had the baby with them at the time. They had just had the baby, and the baby was there in this carriage thing, and they were all just sitting there hanging. And I probably talked to them for about 10 minutes. And then I went over and sat with Simple Minds because, the guy's with his family, you don't want to, get away and all that stuff. But just the fact to have met Bruce and Clarence Clemens and folks like that. And it's nice when folks are just folks, man. And then I said to Steven, man, I got to interview you. I didn't even think to ask, interview Bruce, you know what I mean?
But he would have done it though. He would have.
Oh yeah, probably, you know.
My God, yeah, man.
But I mean, there's still time for that. You know what I mean? There's still time for that. But he was gracious. He was nice. He was sweet. Yeah. She was sweet. They were just wonderful people, man. And it's like, that's the thing about music, was that music brought people together. I could have been a jock, but I mean, I didn't like the attitudes of jocks once they got off the court or the track or whatever. They weren't kind and generous. They weren't nice.
Never left that. Yeah.
Yeah. They all weren't, not everybody talked like duh, 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 and all of that. But, some guys were really nice, but a bulk of them, where I went to school, the jocks beat up their girlfriends. You see the prettiest girl in the school walking around with a sling on her arm and dark glasses. And it was like, what happened? At that point, you just want to beat his ass, And
Cleveland?
Yeah, that was Cleveland, man. Okay. It was pretty, Cleveland's pretty serious, I mean, if you know the story of the Untouchables and Elliot Ness, all that shit didn't go down in Chicago. It went down in Cleveland first.
Really?
Elliot Ness was from Cleveland. Yeah.
Wow, man.
So, but also, so was Bobby Womack, and he lived around the corner from my family. And there was a lot of players. I mean, my friend Anton Fear, who was with the Feelies, went on to have the Golden Palominos, one of my favorite all-time bands. And what we wanted to do when I was a kid was that we wanted to play different types of music. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we wanted to play every type, because we would listen to the Mark Allman Band. We would get this jazz thing going. We would listen. I heard John Coltrane, A Love Supreme, changed my life, man. I had never heard anything like that. Weather Report, Chick Corea, but also bands like Dust, which a lot of guys came out of Dust. Cactus with Jim McCarty and Carmen Appice. Yeah. And so all of that stuff, man, we listened to, but it was like folk music too. John Renbourn, Pentangle, John Martin, Nick Drake, later on Kate Bush, stuff like that. But it was nothing that we didn't listen to,
I love that.
And my mother would go through my records when I was in university. I remember coming home and she says, "Son, I really like that reggae music," you know.
Oh, no.
And my mother had broken the seal on my Jimmy Cliff, The Harder They Come and Unlimited. She was listening to that shit and was like familiar with it and grooving on it before I was.
Oh,
you
my
know,
God.
that's
The
my
reggae.
mom. You know,
Oh.
yeah, that reggae music. I really love that. You know, and we used to have some Muslims, black Muslims, work around our house because they were extremely honest,
Yeah.
you know, and trustworthy around women and stuff like
Sure.
that. You know, the frontline troops and stuff like that. And there were a lot of people that worked in your neighborhood. You could trust them, you pay them, the job was done well. And they saw some of my records and they went, "Oh, yes, Mrs. Pace, you should, you know, your son's got really, you know, and listen to this and listen to that and this and that." And,
Oh, yeah.
and I had all this stuff I still got records at home at my mom's place.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. And so it was just, you know, we wanted to do classical music, folk. We wanted to do every form of music, but with that authenticity and with that love, and go down the rabbit hole and find out the knowledge, whether it was Rachmaninoff or Korsakov or one of my favorites of all time, Penderecki, you know, but also Dvorak, because
Right.
Dvorak had such a great influence on American music. When he came over, he did the New York Conservatory, which I believe became Juilliard.
Right.
And he also said he was here to help create, foster, and birth an American classical form of music
Right.
that was derived on, but all of his music that he did was so popular because it was derived from the folk music. So Dvorak was really the first guy to sample music. So when he was in America, he said, when he came here, he says, "Look, you've got black music, you've got indigenous native music." He says those two things are enough to create a wonderful classical music for the next millennia, because you will never exhaust the wealth of these two musics, you know. And this was like, at that time, blues would have happened, jazz was just beginning to happen. You had the Appalachian folk music, stuff like that. You had the British influence, the French influence, everything from Debussy to whatever, and all of that was floating around. And one thing that he did was that he made it his mission to educate 150 black and women conductors and players and musicians every year that he was here for the 4 or 5 years.
Dvorak that did this?
This is Dvorak, yeah. And his whole
ethnomusicologist, Michael.
Yeah, Dvorak, what they did when he came here, his whole staff was black. He had a house in Harlem, I believe, and his whole staff was black, and they taught him all about black music. They took him to church, they took him to parties, they took him to jazz bars, speakeasies, all that shit. So when it came time for him to do the New World Symphony, of course he included and more or less sampled, because with the technology that was playing, but he would only do snippets of it, you know?
Yeah.
And he did, there's the song Going Home, which is a black spiritual,
Sure.
which Alice Coltrane does, John Coltrane does, but it was just something, and he included that, and that's the most notable song. But he had about 4 or 5 songs of from everything from indigenous native music to black church music included in the New World Symphony.
Okay.
You know?
It
was brilliant. And so that's what we wanted to do. So that's what I've been sort of working at doing. And electronics were great because I could sit down at the piano and I could have an orchestra now. You know, and I could just play an orchestra and stuff like that. But I executive produced not a symphony, I guess we would call it a suite, because it's really short. And I had this artist that I was working with. Basic guy came to me and said, "Look, I'm not well. I'm gonna die in a couple of years, whatever, but I think I finished my symphony." And so I said, "Well, bring it to me. Let's see what we can do with it." And in 2 days, I got a symphony orchestra here in Brampton to do one of the movements of his symphony.
Wow.
And it was great. He never saw it because it wasn't videotaped. I think it may have videotaped it, but it was just for the orchestra. And on his way to the symphony that evening, where he got a standing ovation, he got into the limo to go, and he had to go straight to the hospital, man. And he didn't come out of the hospital. So I just visited him in the hospital with the libretto and the program and stuff like that. That was the last time I saw him, other than his funeral. But it was, I was really happy that I could do that, you know, for
What a
him.
gift, man.
And yeah, just to, you know, and I mean, I said, you know, I couldn't even stay at the hospital, man, because it was bad. You know, it was really bad. But you know, it was a real gift for me, and definitely you know, a brick of gold for him, man.
Jeez,
So that was kind of cool. But and I'm very careful about the musicians that I work with, because I'm like, you know what I'm like? I'm like the last member of your band, man, that comes in to like tie shit together. Because I look at what you're doing and I go, okay, first I've got to have an affinity for it. So I'm not particularly doing it for the money. It's nice to get paid, but I'm doing it because I can get along with those people for these few minutes of that time, or I can come in and I can see where you might have missed a couple things. All I'm doing is coming in with thread, man, and just threading it and just putting it together and going, here. Nice. You know, I'm not imposing my anything on that except for my taste, maybe. Okay. You know, yeah. And if you ask if I need to play something, I can play something. Sure. What do you need? You know, but I'm not going to stretch it further. I will get someone else to play or try and inspire you to play. Like right now I'm doing, there's a young lady, I'm directing my first video, my first music video for her. And it's a young girl that wrote something in a small town that she lives in here. And she wrote one track, and it's sort of like a Black Lives Matter track. Okay. And so I said, okay. I said, I'm going to do 2 videos for you, one lyric video and one video. The lyric video, we can use stock footage and stuff from the news and things like that. But I just want you to sit there and play. And I'm going to record it 2 or 3 times and edit that together. And I might have the lyrics running up under so that people get a sense of who you are and your poetry and all that. Young girl. Yeah. And I said, here's the deal. I'm going to do this for you. And, you're going to have a piece of paper and a pen and a notebook for the whole time, because what you're going to learn here, I want you to write stuff down, because I want you to know how to do eventually what I do. Nice. And I want you to understand what's going on so that in your career, you get used to being in control and you get used to asking the right questions. Beautiful. Right. But if you do every job, then you will have a good idea of what you're asking other people to do and what you're paying for. That's and you'll know whether they're bullshitting or screwing with you.
That's so good, man.
You know? And so many musicians don't know. How many musicians you go, well, my publishing, I got no money. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, all right. You know, what did you get? Oh, I got some drugs. I got, okay, fine. Yeah, whatever. You know, you got a house.
The age-old story.
Yeah, you got a car, you know, your wife leave you with the kids. Yeah. Okay, fine. You know, so it's that age old terrible story. It doesn't matter whether you're a blues musician or a member of the Stones or the Beatles, right? Because they all got crushed.
Yeah. Oh man.
You know, I think the Beatles were sharing like 5 cents with Brian Epstein, right? You know, so, you know,
I just saw the Hired Gun, this documentary. Have you seen that?
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Liberty DeVito talking about how Billy Joel just got shafted for like 95 million or something insane like that. And then he's so gun shy that he just let his guys go. So then they're all like, you know,
they're all screwed with him. Man. Yeah. And, you know, a friend of mine was signed to Morris Levy. I don't know if you know the name Morris Levy. Morris Levy, there's a book. Hang on a second. I keep all my books here. Oh yeah, here we go. This is it. There we stick that in the
All
camera.
right. Me, the
Me,
mob, and the music. All right.
yeah, Tommy James of
Nice.
Tommy James and the Shondells, who I'm supposed to talk to real soon. I was always a big fan. He goes, one hell of a ride with Tommy James and the Shondells. He had to wait till people died before he could put this book out.
Right. Yeah,
And he was signed to Morris Levy. Morris Levy was like the most notorious gangster in music because the mob controlled all of the jukeboxes.
right.
And eventually they said, wait a minute, we got jukeboxes, we're playing the music, let's move up the chain a little bit, let's control these musicians. And they did. And you know, a lot of musicians, like the guy who wrote I can't think, I Fought the Law and the Law
Right.
Won, found him in his, you know, oh man, like what they did to him was just terrible. So you know, so the mob went further into it and got into publishing and all that kind of stuff. And Morris Levy was kind of the archetype for that,
Yeah.
and the stereotype for that as well.
Early Suge
and
Knight tactics.
yeah, well, yeah, no, Suge Knight was a baby compared to Morris
Yeah.
Levy. Morris Levy, and I met Morris Levy and his son when I was probably about 15, hanging out at the radio station I mentioned in Cleveland, Ohio,
Oh, my
WNCR. They flew in, landed the helicopter on the top of the building, came down with Tommy James and everybody, and, you know, met the people and all that kind of stuff. Then we walked them back up to the helicopter. It's kind of cool,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
But
that's a good.
it was
good rival.
but it was a dangerous sort of thing, you know. Musicians like, you know, like who is it, you know, Sam Cooke, murdered. You know,
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix, murdered. So it's like, you know, it's a dangerous thing, you know. I don't think people get it. They kind of got it a little bit when you talk about Suge Knight,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But Vanilla Ice will tell you that he was being held over a thing. I was offered Vanilla Ice's record in Canada, and I didn't take it because I said, Queen's going to come get their money someday.
Oh, right.
You know?
Yeah, you would have thought. But it's
Yeah.
just that one, it's different. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it's totally
Yeah.
different. Nothing. Yeah, like. I
Oh,
remember-
yeah, but
I
it was
remember
there.
Him arguing it over and over again that it's completely different. There's that one note, but I saw that Vanilla Ice recanted his story about Suge Knight. He came back and said, "Yeah, no, we're all good. Suge and I are fine. You know, he didn't hang me up, and you know, whatever."
Yeah. But you would recant your story about Suge Knight too. You know what I mean?
Dude, he'd run you over with this freaking SUV, man.
Are you kidding me, man? No,
a couple years
that was
ago, right? That was a couple
Yeah.
years. Yeah, he just
Yeah.
ran over like,
No.
over and over again. That's
Yeah. That was before he went to jail, where
Right.
he still is now.
right.
Right. And
Yeah.
they said, you know, in jail, you know, I mean, I think he ran into people a lot tougher than he was.
Yeah.
You know, and sort of kind of like that. But it's been an interesting run, let me tell you. It's different now. I mean, what I'm doing is different now. I'm executive producing, I'm producing music. I was a contractor on Cirque du Soleil Alegria.
Really?
And those were
Okay.
all my guys. All that. I was actually doing a session, and they came into my session 3 or 4 times, and I said, hang on, you come in here like I'm not paying for this time. You know, like, what are you doing? What do you want? Well, we want your producer. I went, you know, thinking of my guys, man. I wasn't thinking of me. You know, you got to take all my guys at triple scale.
Yeah.
So they did. Producer, everybody, straight down to the engineer in the studio. And they took my trumpet player, and once the guy who was writing all the music heard the trumpet player, he pulled a song out that he had been sitting on because he didn't have anybody that could play it. And the last track on the album is my guy Joey Somerville doing the solo on Nocturne. And that finished the
Nice.
record, man. And they gave me a credit that you would need a magnifying glass
Yeah.
to find, you know. But you have to know what you know. It's like, you know what you did, you know who you are. You know,
It's
them
a-
saying it loudly isn't going to really change it. Maybe it'll get you some more work someplace down the line, but you know,
Cirque du
it's
Soleil
like,
work doesn't pay anyway. You know that, man. There's
oh
not
man,
much.
they're bankrupt now,
I
eh?
saw. Yeah, that's crazy, man. I mean,
That's insane. Because in Montreal, they're
That's
freaking
home,
out.
right?
Yeah.
That's home. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they fired a bunch of people there and stuff. He lived around the corner from my ex, and he was like party boy. He went up, he's the guy that went up in SpaceX in the spaceship, right? Remember, he went up into space.
The dude from Cirque du Soleil?
Yeah, the guy who started Cirque du Soleil. He went up in space. Oh yeah. Yeah. And so I think he's got an ex-wife that's probably killing him too. You know,
we're trying to get to be we want Elon Musk to put Flock up there. We want to be the first band to play on the moon.
So, oh, do you?
Yeah. I want to ride SpaceX up and do one show on the moon. That's before we die. That's the bucket list.
Well, yeah, but they can let, well, you know, but they may leave. They'll probably leave you there.
I'm fine with that. That's cool, man. That's a great, I'd rather be there than here, to be honest with you.
Well, I thought about that too. It was sort of like, before I die, just send me through the alien part of the Bermuda Triangle, right? And so either they'll catch me and save me, or I'll just be bird food there, you know? But if I'm in the Bermuda Triangle, I may not be coming out of the other side. So who knows, you know, I could do the dimensional shift thing, you know, run into the land of Bigfoot. You know?
He's here. He's up here in the Northwest too. Yes. I was thinking about your transition, because you went Cleveland to Montreal to go to university.
Yeah.
And then from Montreal, did you actually get the Much Music gig there? Or were you in Toronto?
I was in Montreal, so I got the Much Music gig there, but I would fly down to Toronto or train down to Toronto. I do 4 or 5 days in Toronto, come back. I was working at Shom FM and CKGM. So I was doing like 5-6 days a week on the biggest rock and roll station in town. Hang on a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Hey, Junior. The dog. We got a new dog, a Chiweenie.
Oh, nice. Really a Chiweenie?
Yeah. A Chiweenie, yeah. Part Chihuahua, part Dachshund. Great dog. 11-year-old rescue dog. Very cool.
Man. I've got a little pug here.
Oh, do you? Pugs are cool, man.
He's
Pugs
a badass.
Are very cool.
He doesn't know he's a pug. He honestly, he's a brindle, so he looks like kind of a tough pit. He's this kid, and he's so much energy. He doesn't know he's supposed to be fat and lazy. So
yeah.
Falls out all the time, you know. But
he thinks he's a Rottweiler, right? So he's
it.
Like, you know, don't mess with me. But I would go down 4 or 5 days. You know, I go down 4 or 5 days and go back to Montreal. That was really quite extraordinary, because I was able to live in 2 of Canada's greatest cities simultaneously. You know, and that was very cool. And being able to go home to Montreal and chill.
God, I love both of those cities so much. You know, I know Ed is chiming away here on the chat, but he knows that I've been trying to get up there for a long time. You know, I applied.
Oh yeah. Well, I keep hearing you want to move to Canada.
I do. Yeah, man. I even more so, I think, every day, you know, but
there are a lot of people, man. Snoop bought property up there. A lot of people are buying property up there, because if Donald Trump gets in a second time, I just figure I got to call it a day and give up my citizenship, because I'm just not having that anymore, you know? So it's like, and I got family in the States, and I've seen the whole, from high school on, even before that, I've seen the ugly side, you know, the whole racism thing, all of that sort of stuff from my high school days. Like I was telling you, it was a riot zone, Collingwood High School. Wonderful people when you find wonderful people, but it's interesting to see people that, you know, just sort of change for riot season. You know, all of a sudden they're calling you a name at riot season, but you were playing basketball or guitars the week before, you know?
Man,
and so
you see it now.
Wild. Yeah.
You know, the way that social media is kind of spinning things now.
Yeah.
Those people that would not be at all like that. You know, they hide behind a computer, and all the judgment and everything comes out.
Yeah.
It blows my mind, man. And I try not to get too caught up in it. I know that.
But where you are, man, is you're in Portland, you know? And I mean, first of all, the moms, I mean, big up to the moms, you know, that's very cool. And the moms in Kentucky too, you know, and moms all over America who are doing that stuff. That's the type of shit my mom would do.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to mess with, you're going to go mess with a black mom. You're going to go mess with any mom in front of her, her kid and her family, especially a single mom. She will beat your ass,
That's
right?
Yeah.
And tell you what you're doing wrong. Then
Give me
go
the
home
switch.
there you go, man. And you better not bring back a little one, right? You bring back that little one. She goes outside and gets the tree, comes back and beats your ass.
That's right.
Yeah, man. But I mean, single moms are the absolute best, and they are part of the, I think women are changing. I know down in Alabama, it was the fact that black women got out and voted, and single women and moms are changing things. Like Lenny Kravitz said, men have had a good go at it. Now maybe it's time that women controlled shit, because we obviously just fucked up,
Totally. And continue to.
Yeah, and continue to, man. I mean, for Donald Trump to say, that whole thing about Ghislaine Maxwell, and there are people hurting on that situation. It's like, dude, that's kind of.
Yeah, where is your damage control person stopping you from the shit that you say?
Dude, where's your wife? Your wife should have smacked you on that one.
Where's your conscience? Where's your...
Yeah. And I don't even go to the whole, I try not to go to the whole political side, because you turn on the TV, it's so much there. You turn on the computer or stuff like that, all the disinformation and stuff. And computers, I feel, have disassociated us from each other and society to a great point. No one knows how to research the information. Kids don't know how to read that well. They don't know how to spell that well. They don't know how to get along with each other as people. And it's just a very sad thing. Now, my son is in his early 20s, and he graduated from school maybe like 5-6 years ago. And I was, I'm a separated dad, but I would go to his school all the time. And I was very proud when his principal said, "We have fathers that live around the corner from here, and you're here more than they are. And I'm living in another city, And so I knew all the kids that he went to school with from pre-K to finish. And those kids, I got to tell you, man, they gave me so much hope. And I was so proud of him and them for the things that they do and the things that they did. They had a young man who was challenged. He had MS or something to the fact. Man, they didn't put him in special classes. He hung with everybody else. He did what they did. If they were running and getting in trouble, he was running and getting in trouble. Yeah. And I just love the way that was just normal to them.
Yeah.
I thought it was just wonderful and beautiful. Now, I said to him, "Did you run into racism and all that stuff?" And he said, "Oh yeah, Dad, I did, And so I haven't had that talk with him, because most black parents have the talk with their kid when their kid leaves the home, because they're always afraid that the kid isn't going to come back.
Right.
Whether it's George Floyd or whomever, it doesn't matter. That's the biggest fear. So if anything comes out of all this, because the statues can be last, you know what I mean? The statues belong in another museum where you can say, this is what they thought they were doing. This is what they were really doing. And this is why we moved it. And this is who this person really was. Yeah. So it's always a teaching moment to me. Right. True, and so the statues can move, but the statues never shot at me. The statues never chased me. Right. The statues never stopped me from getting a job.
You bet.
And so I think it's the Black Lives Matter thing is a generational thing. And, I'm an old man now, according to them, I'm sure.
Your kids.
But, so you look at your kids out there doing these things, but the old people like John Lewis and, the old people have a definite place, because we make cooler, calmer decisions, and we make decisions. These are the troops. These are the people on the front line, and that's great what they're doing. And it reminds me of the 60s, because I see a rainbow of colors out there.
Yeah.
That's one thing in Canada. You come to downtown Toronto, there's 140 different languages being spoken.
I love it, man. That's one of the things I love so much.
And the food is all damn good. I mean, the food, oh, geez.
Yeah, well, obviously I like to eat. But I mean, beyond that, what I thrive on what I am attracted to is decency. You know,
Yeah.
I want good, authentic, decent people. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by a good amount of those people here because I have surrounded myself with that. But when
Hmm.
I go, every time I'm up there, you know,
Hmm.
it's like they come out of the woodwork. I find these people that I
Hmm.
think these are my family. You know, when I get it,
Yeah.
it's and it happens in BC, it happens in Ontario, man. I mean, you know,
Oh yeah.
it's Quebec.
Yeah.
I feel at home up there, man. And it's not a joke in a reactionary sort of flippant comment to say that I want to get up there to get away from things. It's that I seek a better atmosphere. I see what
Yeah.
people, and
Hmm.
what I see happening in my environment is disappointing to me, but it's also affecting my kids in a really shitty way, you know?
Well, that's it too. You know, when it starts to affect your family and your kids and your livelihood, because you can always go get another job.
Yeah,
Can't,
man.
you know, but you can't get another kid. You can't get another life,
Totally.
you know,
Yeah.
and um, you can say what you want, man, but it just breaks my heart that people are dying. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I wanted things to work out for Trump at any given chance of anything that he did. I wanted it, and I think everybody in America wanted
Sure.
it to work.
Yeah.
Wanted it to work. For the 4 years, we wanted it to work because I want to see people thrive, man.
Yeah.
No matter where they are, no matter who they are, no matter what you are, I want to see you thrive. I want to see you do a-okay, just damn fine. You know, if
Yeah,
you can
buddy.
take care of that first, then it's easier when you walk outside and deal with other people, right?
Yeah,
And
man.
when they're not, you know, and some people don't even know that they're not thriving, you know, like all this stuff with QAnon and stuff like that. And
Oh,
I'm going like,
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
who's Q? Who's Q?
The
You
deep
know, who,
state. Yeah.
who
Oh,
is Q? And is this really helping your life? Is this
yeah.
really helping you to survive? And we try and look at it this way. I tell my son, you don't look down on anybody unless you're going to pick them up,
That's so
you
good.
know, and
Man,
that's the way.
what a
And
sensei.
music has taken me far, man. I mean, it has. I haven't made the world of money. I can still do that, maybe. I don't know, but I just want to have enough to take care of me, my family, and friends. And if I can do that, I'm pretty good. I got an award, this big award for working in music for 40 years and stuff. And the real reward for me was that people knew who I was, or that they had respect for what I do.
You bet.
That's the exciting thing for me. And that I can talk to people like you, or play with, you know, Gord or whatever, and that's just a lot of fun. I've been threatening to be the last member of the Spoons, just to do
Nice.
background vocals and some percussion, you
Oh
know, and
yeah. Well,
stuff.
you were the
So gonna,
MC. You introed
yeah,
the
I
one
MC
show
this.
that I got to play drums on. You know.
Yeah, that's, oh, that was the wedding, wasn't
That
it?
yep. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. That was the wedding, and so they're just, well, Gordon and Sandy are wonderful people, and
God, they are.
you got a lot of great musicians up here all over the country. And
Yeah.
I mean, from Newfoundland to Victoria, man, from sea to shining sea, it's a beautiful place, and people are really, they're not as volatile as they are in the States. Some places, I guess, maybe, but you know, they're trying to be somebody else or something else. But for the most part, you know, we've got a decent prime minister. We've got a great country. It's a big country with lots of land in it. And I love the land, man. I love
Yeah.
seeing the land all over the
Me too.
place, and seeing places that I haven't been to before, discovering history,
Yeah.
you know, from Oscar Peterson to Sonny Greenwich to great Amos Garrett, who did the solo on Midnight at the Oasis, you know.
Oh God.
And it was like, when I was in Cleveland, I didn't even know about Canada, but Canada was coming up every once in a while, you
Sure.
know, whether it was, what's his name? And the guy who did the New Year's Eve thing. Um,
Dick
and
Clark.
the Royal Canadians was his band. I can't
Oh.
think of it. But he used to do it every year. He would like play in Buffalo or something like
Okay.
that, such and such, and the Royal Canadians. And I don't even think he was Canadian.
Oh right.
Also, a friend of mine produced 4 or 5 Grammy Award winnings for winning album, polka albums
Oh my
for for what's his name? Oh God, I can't even think of his name now. It's losing me too, but he's from Cleveland. Frankie Yankovic and the Polka Chips.
Oh
That's it.
God.
And he won, like, he's always won the Grammy for, while he was living, he won the Grammy for polka. My buddy here in Niagara Falls, who plays in a great soul band called the LMT Connection, he produced 3 or 4 albums for Frankie Yakovich, and all the band played on it. The soul band, they played on this record. And Frankie Yakovich, Cleveland's greatest exponent of polka.
Okay.
And, you know, yeah, I don't want to, you can take her. She's too fat for me. No, she's too fat for me. Don't be insulted out there, anybody. It's just a song.
The lyric,
okay?
yeah.
It's just a lyric. It's just a polka lyric, you
That's
know?
right.
But we had Big Moose Cholak, and we had polka halls in Cleveland, man, that were like
my God.
scary.
It's
And it
amazing
had,
to me to imagine you on a weekend basis going from one spot to the next. You know, you're hitting a concerto, and then you go into a polka
Mhm.
hall, and then you hit the
Mhm.
soul clubs, and then a rock bar, and maybe
Oh yeah.
like
It's like being in Europe, man. In Europe, you do that all the time. You don't know
Yeah.
where you're going. You know, I'm in Paris, I go to the Bain Douche. Then I go someplace else. I saw Earth, Wind, and Fire at the Phoenix in Paris, and that was like,
Wow,
whoa, that was
man.
great. But the best was Gil Scott Heron at the New Morning. And
Oh,
Gil and I are friends, and I went to see him, and Dexter Gordon's family was there, and we were hanging out. And, you know, and in Paris, after the show, you go and eat somewhere.
right.
And the food is always amazing. Why? You're in fucking Paris. You know? So that's always a good time, man. But so you enjoying being with the Seagulls? You've been with them for a while, man.
Yeah, I'm really. It's this last year we really hit our stride. You know, we played a lot of shows, and
Yeah.
went back over to Europe again, and you know,
Mhm.
had some crazy shows there. Man, Quebec City was the biggest show I'd ever played.
Oh,
know.
you guys did the Festival d'été
We did
with like 500,000 people there or
Yep.
something like
Yeah,
that.
I think they said there were 90,000 for Corey Hart there. It was Corey's
Yeah.
gig, and it was us, Corey Hart, and Level 42, which also was
Level 42,
Dude.
Mark King.
Oh my
Was he
God.
still great?
Oh yeah, man. That's it, man. You got it. He's
Yeah.
got like the light up fretboard, you know, and he came in,
Uh-huh.
we hung, you know, he came into our dressing room and talked for quite a while, but I just shot the entire show of his live Facebook, you know, and it was me
Uh-huh.
and my face and him playing, you know, just the
Yeah. Yeah.
whole band was smoking. But yeah, that show was incredible. And
Mhm.
you talked about the culture and getting discovered new people and places. That city, it was the first time I'd been in Quebec City, right?
Uh-huh.
So the whole story of the castle and the overrun from the Brits and taking out the
Mhm.
French, and how they decimated each other's armies so that
Mhm.
there was nothing left, and that the nurses there were the ones that came and took care of just the main living soldiers that were there. And the legacy was apparently that they decided, because all of the warring factions on both sides were dead, that whoever
Mhm.
came through the channel first was going to claim the territory. And the Brits actually were the first people to show up. And so that's why
Yeah.
it's British colony, but still French speaking, you know? And
Yeah. Well, and the my friend, one of my very good friends, my roommate from university, Michael Delaney, he was Irish, and he told me the story of the Irish leaving Ireland during a potato famine and coming to Quebec and Quebec City. So it was the Irish that actually built and designed the gates around the old city.
really, oh
Yes.
my God, wow.
Yes, and very big Irish contingent there. You'll see a lot of red hair in Quebec City.
Yeah.
And he was from Quebec, and it was very, very interesting. I've only been to Quebec City once. I've never been to Festival d'été, but I've always wanted to go and see that. I mean, when Paul McCartney played a number of years ago, like 5-10 years ago,
Yeah.
I understand there was like 1 million people or
Right.
something on the plains of Abraham
I
checking
heard-
out
yeah.
Paul McCartney and singing all the Beatles songs. But Quebec loves music,
Yeah,
and
I could see
going
that.
from Cleveland, Ohio, which is like, it was a music factory. People just,
Yeah.
everybody played music for, it was like, I guess like a Nashville or a Memphis, but it was Cleveland, right? So people
a
didn't
reason.
expect it.
The Hall
Yeah.
of Fame is there for a reason, man. You know?
Exactly. And then going to Montreal, it was like the sister city of Cleveland. They
Right.
both like Genesis. They both love Chick Corea. Al
Wow.
Di Meola, Return to Forever,
Yeah.
Stanley Clark. They both, Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth was big with us, man. The
Really?
Mexican by Wells Fargo and The Mexican by Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Huge songs in Cleveland.
Oh my
Get to
God.
Montreal, show 'em. I get there. Babe Ruth was in town. And so they go on the radio. Look, we lost our guitar player, eh? And so if you're seeing, I think his name was Alan Shylock or something, or Chirac, and they say if you see him or if you see him around, just bring him home. And ladies, if you've got him, just let him go eventually. You know, we got to play another show and stuff like that. But it was Quebec is such a wonderful, romantic, beautiful
Oh,
place, and the music there is wide and varied. Stanley Jordan, when he first came to Montreal, when he was first starting out and doing the guitar tapping thing and playing
yeah.
beautifully, he came, and a friend of mine, Ruben Fogel, brought him to town. He had a Club Soda, sat a couple hundred people, put him in there the first couple of nights, put him in there for a week, put him in on Monday. Man, by Wednesday or Thursday, you couldn't get in,
Oh man.
right? Because
Of
everybody
course.
had heard and
Yeah.
said, "Come down, come down, come down." And you also in Quebec, you had an indigenous music, like a really nice Quebecois French music that was going on, that had a very hard and wonderful cultural edge to it that you could enjoy if you were Quebecois or even if you weren't. But so much of Canada has never heard that music, and everything that you would want in music, like Dvorak, everything you'd want in music, you could find in Quebec, just about.
Wow.
You know, whether it's classical or jazz or whatever, it's happening.
I
It's
can't
happening. It's
believe
on.
really this you're an ethnomusicologist, man. I mean,
I
you
try,
get
man. I
it's
try.
it's
Well, I
beyond
travel,
even
you know, I get to
yeah.
travel. I traveled. I used to be a member of Up With People.
I didn't know
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Oh
Yes, I
my
was a member
gosh.
from high school. Before I came to Canada, I was a member of Up With People. My
Right
last
on.
year of high school, my 12th year of high school, and I traveled with 175 people around the world. We did 3 months in Spain, 2 months in Belgium, 2 months in Mexico, and then the rest of the time we did from California over to South Carolina. And so I've been places I shouldn't have been and places I should have been. I was in Valdosta, Georgia, which is not far from Stone Mountain, which is the Confederate Mount Rushmore.
Right.
And that's also where the Klan was
Oh,
formed and stuff. And that's where they always go and renew themselves and all of that.
oh,
We were in
buddy.
a church over there. We went in to do a show. That was the only city we didn't stay in overnight. And we went in and did a show in a church. And then halfway through the show, fire marshal comes through, man, all dressed up like in hazmat suits and bomb squad and the whole thing. Somebody called in a bomb threat, so we had to stop the show, empty out the church, and after they said, okay, we didn't find a bomb, but we ain't sure, you
Yeah.
guys want to go back and do the show? And we said, yeah, man, we came here to do a show, so we're going to do the show. So we went back and finished the show. That could
Holy
have been a stupid decision, but it was a heartfelt one. And
yeah.
175 kids from the ages of 17 to 27, and from all over the world, representing as many countries as there were on the planet.
Wow.
And we all got along, and we all lived together. We all billeted. We stayed with people that we didn't know in each city. So if I stayed at your house and you had water for 10 minutes a day, I might have water for 2 minutes,
Wow.
right? But then
Yeah.
we learn how to live with it, you
You
know?
bet.
And it was wonderful meeting people. And that 175 people, we're all still friends
Are you
today.
really? What a
Absolutely.
life-changing experience, man. I
Oh,
can
yeah, man.
imagine.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you meet people from places that you're not going to go to, and people that have lives so different from you.
Right.
And it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And it really taught you so much. You know, racism is such a waste of time.
Yeah, buddy.
You know,
It's crazy.
it really is, you know. And because if you can't play that instrument, teach me.
Yeah. Right.
Teach me, you know. And there was a fellow that played flute. He'd loan me his flute every once in a while and let me take it home for the
Yeah.
weekend or whatever. And I just played with wonderful musicians. we had an orchestra. So we had like a 20-piece orchestra, everything from vibes to strings to whatever. We did square dances, we did this, we did that, all kinds of stuff. I sang in a choir when I was in high school and elementary school and all of that. I sang Gregorian chants when I was
Did
like
you?
9 years old,
Ah,
from 9 till about 12, and
yeah.
every Saturday morning I would go and do that. And but I think the first music I really heard, other than the Cleveland Orchestra, was in church. My Aunt B used to watch me on Sunday in California, in Los Angeles, and my mom had to go and work. She was a maid. And my Aunt B would watch me and she would take me to church, and Aunt B was in the choir. So I was her charge, man. So I was right there next to her in the choir. So when they sang, I kind of mouthed or
Yeah.
made noise. They clapped, I clapped. When they got up and marched, I got up and marched. And I just saw how the preacher was like the band leader. And then you had the band, and then you had the choir.
Right.
And then you had the congregation, and there was support. It was kind of like the Blues Brothers,
Yeah.
because it
Right.
was like a holy sanctified type church. So there was testimonials, there was testifying, and
Testify.
there was singing, and there was everything else. But all the things that they needed, they found in the church. And I was very lucky to have that beginning there, because it was just so much love, man. There's so much love, like that Bobby Blue Bland song is "Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City" off of California's album. No,
Yeah.
man, there's a lot of love in the heart of the city. There's a lot of love in the ghetto. There's a lot of love where you don't have no money, whether it's Appalachia or New York City and Harlem. There's a lot of love in those places. You just got to go be there and find it and respect it,
Yeah.
right? And
That's
that's
so
that's
good.
just what we need now. I think is a lot more of that, because
Oh,
we don't look down on America, but we look at America through the news on CNN and everything every day, and we go, what the F is going on?
yeah,
Why
buddy.
would you want to do that? And the amount of people that are dying and stuff like that. I mean,
You
we
know,
don't have that here. We have people dying, yes, but we try and fix our problems. We understand, unlike America, I think we understand that Canada is an incredible experiment that's not cast in stone, that's not done being an experiment. So
yeah.
we can change quickly on the fly to meet the needs of people. The Edmonton Eskimos are no longer called the Edmonton
Right.
Eskimos, just like the Cleveland Indians should have never been called the Cleveland
Right.
Indians, right?
Right.
And name your teams after animals, name your teams after skies. Every place you go in the country of the world has something that they call their area.
Yeah.
Call it that.
Right.
And the whole sports thing, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was a jock, but I mean, the whole sports thing, unless you're betting on it, is it really that important? It's
I
like,
mean, I honestly, I've been a season ticket holder for Seattle Seahawks for almost 20
uh,
years, and,
okay.
and it was a nice distraction. When I'm touring,
Hmm.
I don't get to see a whole lot of the games because they're happening while we're traveling.
Yeah.
And but over the last few years,
Hmm.
even though I like the game, man, I noticed that the disconnect that's happening with people,
Uh-huh.
the pandemic made it so less important for me to need to
Uh-huh.
have that be part of my life.
Yeah.
My best friend has ALS, man, and he's
Hmm.
struggling. He's a drummer, and it took
Oh
away
man.
his lifeblood to play music. But he's a
Yeah.
huge Chargers fan, and
Uh-huh.
for bucket list items, we've gone to, like, while he can still get around at all, we've gone to see the Chargers games, and it's important for me now to have the experiences there, not so that I can go and cheer on my team, but
Yeah.
I'll play with the drum line, and hang out with my guys there. But it's a different experience now because ultimately, man, I really depend on good, solid people. And that,
Hmm.
I don't get that at a football game. There's a dopamine rush when your team scores
Right.
a point,
Right.
but when I think I saw one game last year and I didn't mind. And I just this morning opted out of my games this year because they gave you an option to
Hmm.
leave your money in and see what happens. But
Hmm.
I don't think it's a safe place to be anyway, man. I mean, they're not going to have all
Yeah.
this. I have 4 seats together. There's no way I'm going to
Mhm.
get me and my boys to sit together at those games. So that, right. I mean, they're not going to, they can't
Yeah.
play that close to each other, and there's not going to be a vaccine in the next 2 months, so
Uh-huh.
so I'm happy with letting it go and focusing on the stuff I can control, man. I said,
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, to making those switches and those changes, man. I mean, if all that shit comes back, great. If it doesn't come back, there's something else.
that's,
We'll make something else happen. Just
yeah,
like
man.
so much stuff is online now,
Yep.
and people are figuring out how to play online effectively and not making it like you're watching paint dry.
Right.
And so we shot a show. We did 2 shows. We did one with Roger and Michael Fisher, Roger Fisher
Yeah.
of Heart.
Yep.
We did a blood bank drive in Oregon and Washington about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and that helped them out, and that was exciting. Then we did a show that we shot. We did a show from Vancouver to Montreal, and in Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, maybe Winnipeg, a few other cities, and Montreal. We did tribute band. It was called Tribute Fest 2020, and we did tribute bands, and we shot the whole thing with iPhones and pads.
Was Gene doing that with you?
Gene was doing that. Yeah, it was all Gene's idea, man. It was all Gene's idea. Gene is a killer. I love Gene because he is just Gene. Nothing beats Gene. Nothing gets by Gene. And Gene is as good as he is. Gene is like my equal twin, like we're both at a certain place in our life. We both really respect and love what we do, and we're both sort of equally paired, and that's really great to work with him doing anything. And I love him to death. And
really
we knew each other and we didn't even know each other. Like, he saw me in Montreal after university when I was doing lasers, because I'm a licensed laserist as well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a license to do lasers, and I was doing that. And he saw me back then when I was doing laser shows in clubs, and the laser shows were wild, dude. I designed these shows that oh yeah, man. I had confetti going through the lasers with the beam fanning. It looks like emeralds are falling from the sky.
You still have some gear?
No, I didn't have any of that gear. Okay. I just was licensed, and I knew I was the first guy in Canada to do all of this stuff. So I really enjoy that, being the first person in to set the mold or the template. I really do, because there's no rules, right? It's just as, and I was doing laser shows. I painted buildings, man. I had, all kinds of stuff going. We had one of the guys from the guy who did lasers for Blue Oyster Cult. He taught me how to do what I did. And he would get on roller skates. He had on a glitter bodysuit, and he'd take a mirror ball and go down the street. And we're doing laser shows outside. He says, "Now I'm going to get down to the end of the street. Be careful. Hit me with the mirror ball, and I'm going to spin. Okay, just hit me with the mirror ball." And he did it, and it was like, whoa, man. It was like, whoa. And it was that happened in Montreal, and that was so Quebec. It was incredible. And then at the end of the street, we had a hotel, a Holiday Inn that hadn't opened yet, so there was no occupants. So I did the beams, and it was like small, and it would go big, and it would turn around, it would flip, and I would just do everything that you could do with a synthesizer with sound. I would basically be playing a synthesizer, and I'd be handling the X and Y axis. I could do the same thing, but you would have a visual representation of that sound.
That is sweet.
And that was very, very cool. I loved that. God. I love that.
You know who I saw doing to sort of evolving the sound light connection that way was Matt Bellamy from Muse. When you see the Muse show coming out, like if you look online and look at the tours, but he had a lot to do with the production of the visuals that are going. And he uses a Chaos pad on his guitar. I don't know how much you've checked out their stuff, but it's brilliant, man. They're like a modern day Queen meets Rage Against the Machine kind of vibe.
Okay.
And it's hard to figure out the other pairing there, but the other sort of comparison. But visually, it's one of the most incredible shows I've ever seen, and so much is done with lasers
Mhm.
using Bluetooth technology to like track.
Now you can, yeah.
Yeah.
Now you can just put something down at the other end of the room, Bluetooth it, get it going. I mean, Bluetoothing is dangerous with lasers, I got to tell you, because lasers always move, they always shift. And when you go during intermission, when everybody goes to the bathroom, that's dangerous, man, because all of a sudden, because lasers are water cooled for the most part. They have air cooled ones, I think, but I was using water cooled lasers. Everybody would go to the bathroom and flush the toilets.
Oh no.
The things would shut down. So what we did was we built a bus with its own generators and its own water system that circulated, cooled it, and went back in the lasers.
Wow.
So that was kind of cool. We would just put open the windows, and it was pretty incredible.
Bus.
Yeah, the laser bus. It was a laser bus, and it would we take it into the Olympic stadium and just open it up, and it was just beam city out the stuff. It was so great. Good. I did this disco award show there with Dan Hartman, Gloria Gaynor, Rick James, all the disco stars of the day. And I'd be doing lasers to their music and stuff. And I knew all the music, so it was great. And I would just, we would plant mirror balls all around the place. And then I would set it. And then when it would go fast and hit it, people would just freak. And of course, you can set that stuff, where you just hit the button and it just goes by itself now. But I think so much was done with lasers that when Very Lights came along, they were able to do a similar thing just by the amount of light that came out of the par, and they could also twist them around and do this and do that and the other, and a little bit of smoke and a little bit of water, you're pretty good. You don't need, because if you're carrying lasers, it's a lot of work. It's a hell of a lot of work. But does it look great? Yeah. I had lasers. I had one laser, a Krypton laser. There were two lasers, argon, which is green and blue, and then there's Krypton, which gives you red and everything else. Hang on a second.
Good.
Jordan, I'm in the middle of an interview. I got to call you back, okay? All right, thanks, man.
That Michael Jordan calling you all the time, man.
Yeah, I didn't even watch that Michael Jordan thing. Did you? I haven't watched that yet at all. But the laser thing, man, when they worked great, it was a thing of beauty and joy, because you could make walls collapse, you could walk through blue walls. And my Krypton laser, I would tune it to where I could get white. That was like looking into the sun. Yeah. But you did rarely see white lasers. I would just tune it. I would tune out the red. I would tune out the yellow, and I would just go straight to the white, man. Wow. And that was something that no one really did. And then I would do that, and I would just light it up. The whole place would light up. It was really like you brought the sun or the moon into the room, and it would just do all this stuff, So that was Ed? Really cool.
Ed Seifert, for the next show, we need Michael doing lasers, man. He told
Where's me, Ed, man? Is he coming on after me? Or is he coming on in here?
No, he's just on the chat right now, and he said, I can give up on my Seahawks because then I can save another beatdown by his Steelers. So, crazy man.
Well, they just said that Toronto Blue Jays are going to be playing in Pittsburgh, and I think another team is going to be playing in Toronto. And they're really trying hard to make some sort of season go, because they feel that it will help with the pandemic and people being at home. And I'm like, okay, sure, maybe, kind of, sort of. Whatever works, man. Whatever works. Just keep your ass at home. Take care of your family. Eat well. Be well. And, if you can make sure that your neighbor to the left of you and your neighbor to the right of you, a couple doors down, is okay, they do the same with you, it's a good deal,
You've got all these statements, these little sound bites that I could just.
I don't know about it. Yeah. It's just a matter of people taking care of people, man. And that's what they're not doing in America now. And we're doing that in Canada a little bit better day by day. Yeah. We've got the Black Lives Matter thing going here too. Cause where are you going to go where there wasn't one form of racism or indignity or another? Yeah. And what people have to understand is that, if I'm not free, you're not free. If you're not free, I'm not free. So, whatever works for the goose works for the gander. So, and that works for natives, LGBTQ plus,
Yeah.
women, men, whatever configuration, right down to animals.
Yeah.
I mean, some people treat animals better than they treat people. A lot of people do.
That's true.
And, but I mean, if we can stop young men from being shot, if we can stop, young women from being abused, if we can,
Trafficked.
if we can help kids and families and, all of that, then we just make it a little bit better place and we can all get along so much better. And music, that's always the lubrication, man.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, that's the joy, that's the pleasure, but it's our work. But, because I figure what we do, we work really hard for a certain amount of time. Then we want to go isolate.
Yeah.
So we're not too unfamiliar with this isolation thing. We want to go live at our place in the country. We want to go where people aren't going to ring our doorbell, all that kind of stuff. But we isolate, and we've been doing that for a long time. But this is, I know this is really hard on a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
I got a lot of friends who are, having a problem with this. And Gene knows a lot of people because he's a cancer survivor and he works with them all the time. So we have the 420 Weed channel. We got the Rock and Roll Sherpas, which is the best crew ever. And
Sherpas, love it.
Yeah, and then we got Tour Bus TV, and on that we got Isolation Island with Vinx and a few other shows. We got Vinx, we've got oh man, just all kinds of stuff and people. We had Joel Hoekstra on from White Snake. We had great guy. We had Corey on from Living Color. Cat
You've got some Corey Glover going
there's,
right now. I'm actually doing a documentary. I'm being filmed for this documentary on. Did you know the Dan Reed Network?
Oh, I remember Dan Reed Network. Yeah. They were great.
I love.
They were really, really great. They couldn't get much going. They couldn't get enough going with them. Like Mother's Finest. You know Mother's Finest?
Of course, yeah.
Mother's Finest. I mean, they were like, and Dan Reed Network was like, everybody's going, Black Rock and Roll Band, Black Rock and Roll Band. Man, watch the documentary on Netflix. Death, a band called Death. Have you seen that?
I haven't watched. I know I've seen it come across.
Cleveland, Detroit guys, man. And there's like band called Death. A couple of them are still alive. Arthur Lee and Love was another great band. So there's always been black rock and roll bands. You just had to go to the blues side where on the blues side, they turned it up. Other people were trying to be pop, but then you had Parliament Funkadelic that included everything, and my neighbor played bass with Parliament Funkadelic, Prakash John. He's in the rock. Check this. He's in the rock and roll
at the same time.
Yeah. Well, a lot of stuff that you think Bootsy played, he played, right? Oh, really? Bootsy stopped playing. He had to quit. He couldn't play anymore. Yeah, he couldn't play anymore. But Prakash in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 4 times. George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic. James Brown, Alice Cooper, Lou Reed. Wow. All 4 times he's in there. And he's in the Grammy Lifetime Hall of Fame with George Clinton because George, when he got asked to do that, he brought everybody in his band. He did. All 150, 200 people,
He has that entourage.
Oh yeah, he has that entourage, man. And that's a wonderful thing.
Speaking of awards, man, I was just going to ask you, what's the gold record there sitting on your wall?
That's my 40-year plaque from the Harborfront Center here. That's 40 years of working in music. Let's see if I can get that on here.
Look at that.
There it is, 40 years.
Man.
And then it has a little proclamation and picture there. I've also got gold and platinum on Living Color, Terrence Trent D'Arby, 2 albums, Terrence Trent D'Arby, a couple albums, Living Color, and a bunch. It's all in storage right now, but I've got some platinum and some gold stuff awards from friends, and just for work that I did at Much Music or in radio or something like that. I love it. It's just all I do is tell people about the music, and then they make up their own mind as to what they want to do with it. But you know what? I work in radio too. I love radio when it's good.
Yeah.
And when it's bad, it should be turned off.
Well,
You know,
the thing is, man, like when radio was so open, when you could actually play music that wasn't so, forced, commercial radio wasn't owned by the major corporations enough to force
right,
80
right.
songs, but I mean, I would not say that payola, like was the driving force in that, but man, right now it's just different form of it, and so
well, I mean, it's now they have in the States, they have pay to play.
Yeah.
Right. So where you can go and pay somebody to play your record, they just have to say that you're doing that.
Yeah.
What's the use of that? They're listening.
I have my buddies that right now that are touting their #1 spot on the Foundations chart, and I'm proud of them for having the the recognition. But at the same time, yeah, man, it'd be really nice if that many people were actually listening to the records. It's a drag.
Yeah. I mean, and radio is a wonderful tool if it's used properly.
Yeah.
Just like television. I mean, we discovered with Netflix and Amazon Prime that we can watch something other than the dreck and shit that they actually do on the 3 major networks.
Right.
And it can be interesting. And Netflix is bringing in stuff from all over the world. Last week I was watching, something nun, this about this young girl. She's a nun. And I watched Hannah, and I watched all the music documentaries, on Coltrane or Elvin Jones or whatever. That's a wonderful place to be if you're a musician. To have all that stuff available to you is really good. And the problem with radio is just that it's not interesting. It's boring. It's 40 songs. It's crap.
Commercial.
Sure, it's beyond, and there's nothing wrong with a commercial tune, because top 40 should include every form of music that there is. If you're top 40, if you're pop, that only means that you're popular. It doesn't mean that you've done some sort of, that you tried to imitate Human League or a flock of seagulls. It just means that you're popular. And, there was a time when jazz was the dance music of the day.
Sure.
Right. So that was kind of cool. And it would be nice for different things to be popular now. But at least now with the internet and your telephone, you can go get whatever you want. You don't have to depend on radio.
Right.
Because, radio or Much Music or MTV, you had to wait for them to play the song.
Right.
You had to wait for the video. My kids, your kids, they don't have to do that bullshit anymore.
Right.
They just make their playlist. They listen to their playlist and they say the hell with it.
Right.
The only reason why they need to listen to the radio is for the weather, the time, the temperature, and is my favorite band coming to town. Yeah. Well, if your favorite band's coming to town, they probably on Band-Aid or something like that. Yeah. So you already know.
Right. Yeah.
I was watching this thing, Diddy TV, which is a TV for the Blues Society in the States. And so I chimed in, I went on, and it said, "Oh, Michael, hey, how you doing?" And it says, yeah, somebody else in Nova Scotia was just watching that piece. Not that I really care, but it tries to create an artificial community around the metadata.
Right.
Right.
It sees that you're in that quadrant of Canada. And
you're in that quadrant, and it's like not, because I mean, Nova Scotia is like, 24-hour drive from here.
Right.
But what do they know? All they know is you're in Canada,
The bots don't know.
It's sort of like, you go to an American city and they go, "You from Canada?"
Yeah.
John.
Yeah.
He's from Canada.
Oh man. Well, chances are though, you would know, John.
Possibly.
It seems to me that you've learned, everybody's names. You don't forget a thing.
I mean, with the bands and stuff, because we all started out kind of at the same time. Bryan Adams, Loverboy, Red Rider with Tom Cochrane. Bob Rock.
Yeah.
Celine Dion.
Right.
And then you have the Drakes, the Weekends, all of that stuff from Toronto.
Right.
Everybody knew these guys because
Bieber out of there.
Yeah, Justin. Well, nobody was signing any of these guys in Canada. That was the big problem.
Right.
They all got signed in America or Europe, but not in Canada, because Canadian record companies weren't willing to take that big risk of signing somebody. Whereas, Drake came along and Lil Wayne said, "Yeah, I'm gonna pimp this." Yeah, I'm gonna make some money on this. And he did. And the rappers were the first ones to sign. Like, it was New Edition, Belle Biv DeVoe. They signed Boys to Men.
Right.
Made more money with Boys to Men than they made with New Edition, let me
Right.
tell you. And they were the management team.
Yeah.
And so that was artists finding artists. And that really always works well for the most part. First one to do that sort of stuff was Sam Cooke, because he had his own label. He had his own publishing. Sam Cooke made 5 salaries on every record. He wrote it, he produced it, he performed it, he arranged it, and he was the publisher.
Okay.
You know, he was the publisher. So when they killed him, they knew that they were going to make some money.
Man,
they knew that they were going to make some money, man.
I got to dig into the Sam Cooke legacy. You know, I mean,
Sam Cooke. There's a film on Netflix called The Two Murders or Two Killings of Sam Cooke. Very, very good. I got to speak to his brother on a radio show once. And I said, so I know that they murdered Sam Cooke because he was making way too much money. And they put, like Elvis, man. I mean, just, just like Elvis, Elvis is dead, just like Elvis.
Right.
And Elvis was making so much money. But at a certain point, if you're management, your artist could become a liability and worth more dead than alive, just like Elvis, because Elvis is still selling more records than he did. Right. And he couldn't tour anymore, but he didn't need to tour. He was Elvis.
Yeah.
The Stones just released today version 2 or 3 of Goathead Soup, like a 3 CD version of Goathead Soup with new tracks that were never released, man. Okay. That's what they're doing. They're mining their gold. The Who, they do the same thing. Man. Any band, they're releasing their demos. Bands are releasing the farts they made when they were 12. Yeah, what's on that record? This is my farts. I'm selling my farts to my fans. Because if they can control all that stuff, they normally do control a lot of the tracks that didn't make the record, because the label may say, oh yeah, take that. We don't want that shit. Right. So whatever they control, they can put out and do really well with, Or something. I'm sure Mike has got some various versions of stuff that he can go into the archives and find and release, everybody does.
And just, the reissue that they did last year with the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra. So they did the new record, and they some new and some old, and it was a new opportunity, to reinvent that audience. But yeah, man. I mean, you can't blame a band for trying to discover new revenue sources now. At this point, I just think anybody out there working it is I'm proud of a lot of the bands from that era that are out there doing it. When we play together, and I had Cutting Crew on yesterday, and they, man, Nick Van Eet, the guy sings so well. The guy sings like the Just Died in Your Arms Tonight, like line. Same key, and he's an operatic singer. It's incredible, man. It's really cool to hear that these guys can still hold up, But I'm still thinking about you talking Terrence Trent D'Arby, like
better known as Sanandra Matria now.
Right? Yeah,
and he's still doing great quality product and playing live. But my buddy Terry Brown, who produced all the albums for Rush up until a certain point, like Moving Pictures or whatever, and he produced the Cutting Crew.
I just got the new singles he just sent me that were for Terry Brown Productions. Yeah.
And Terry is just amazing. And I got to do a show here for Pride. This was really fun. I did a show for Pride, like maybe about 7 years ago now, 8 years ago. And what it was that it was supposed to be Berlin, Cutting Crew, ABC, Wang Chung.
Oh yeah.
Berlin got off. We put somebody else in there. But the show was, like you were saying, Cutting Crew was beautiful. They were great. The vocals were amazing. Wang Chung was incredibly good.
Yep.
And ABC was, holy shit. I had seen them before, but they were just great. Were just great. Yeah. Class, and it was a package. And I flipped it off to Pride. and it was a great show. We did it in a parking lot in downtown Toronto, and it rained and stuff just before the show, but it was fantastic. They were really, really good. I'm a big ABC fan, and
Yeah, man. Martin
you know,
Fry. He's killing it.
oh, Mark is great. Yeah. My
I
buddy was playing drums with him, David Palmer, who
oh
also
Palmer's
plays with Rod Stewart.
Rod
Palmer's a dangerous guy.
dude.
He also played with the.
Yep. I was watching his videos just before our interview today.
Oh, you're kidding.
He just posted some new clips of him working out another groove on Facebook and Instagram. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that guy, dude.
Yeah.
Really, like, yeah. You know, I was with Animotion before I was with Flock, right? For
Okay.
15 years.
Okay.
And our guitarist from Animotion has played with Rod for like 25 years. And so he introduced me to
Okay.
Palmer.
What's his name?
Don Kirkpatrick.
Don Kirkpatrick. Okay. Because he had a friend of mine that passed away. And who went on to do a bunch of jazz stuff and things like that. He also played with Gato Barbieri, but he played with Rod for quite a while. And then he passed. And but all the guys playing with Rod were good friends, because they had one fellow, I don't know what his name was, black fellow. He played saxophone and keyboards. And then Dave Palmer was on drums. Carmine Rojas was on bass. From David Bowie and LaBelle, and a few of them. We used to all hang out, man. We all hung out in Toronto a number of times, and in Montreal as well, man. In the till the middle of the night and the wee hours, and got to spend Thanksgiving with Rod. Once he just rented a whole restaurant at the hotel, and everybody had Thanksgiving, and he was very gracious and very nice, and what a great performer and a great voice. And
crazy, man,
he did him and Elton John were just wonderful to Long John Baldry before he passed. They all took care of him because he was the one who hired them all to play in his band in those early days. And he passed in Vancouver. They all came and saw him beforehand, and they were all really quite gracious and took good care of him, and I had a lot of respect for that. Elton lives here now, eh?
Really?
Yeah.
In like not Brampton, but Toronto?
No, he lives in Caledon. He just had a house built in Caledon, which is probably about an hour or so outside of Toronto. And he's got a place there. And he was living here in Oakville because David Furnish, his parents lived in Oakville. So you would see them at the store on occasions and stuff like that. And that was pretty cool. You know, that's very nice.
When they open up the borders, let's you, me, Ed, Gord, Meg, we'll all just I'll take my mics. We'll go over and do a little Alexis Live thing with Elton John. How's that sound? We'll get
hang out.
We'll get Elton, Drake, and Bieber all in one setting.
Drake, and Bieber. Oh, yes. And The Weeknd. We got to throw The Weeknd in.
Of course, we got to throw The Weeknd in.
You know, and don't forget Celine Dion. We need Celine Dion, man. We need Celine Dion just for the beauty of it. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, she's a nice girl. She's really a nice lady. We used to dance to we used to party at her place in Old Montreal, and we would all dance to like AC/DC and stuff like that. Really? You know, and if people go, Celine Dion, AC/DC, absolutely, man. She was like an around the way girl in Quebec. Everybody loved her, but everybody invested in her as well too, to make sure that her career got off properly and everything. Everyone in Quebec had a piece of Celine, and she was the gross national product of Quebec. Absolutely. Absolutely. But great singer. I mean, she does. I've seen her actually sing the phone book.
She definitely has just made a complete extra brand of her own, you know, like the whole residency, you know, at Caesars and Vegas,
yeah.
When you get to that point, then you can pretty much, you know, you've written your ticket.
Oh, absolutely. She is yeah. But now Drake is the one, you know, like Drake is killing shit, man. I mean, like Drake couldn't be any more popular, you know. Drake and The Weeknd, they own the charts, man. I mean, you know, nobody makes money off streaming except for Bieber and Drake and The Weeknd.
It's the truth.
You know, everybody else is complaining about streaming, and they're going, no, man, that's where my money comes from.
Yeah, they're like, no complaints.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you're hitting 1 billion streams, you know, then you know, okay, it's just like. But
he just released an EP a couple days ago, a new EP, you know, like out of nowhere. Bam, Drake.
Oh, Drake did.
Drake, yeah, yeah. And the Weeknd's always releasing stuff and
Yeah.
everything. I mean, he's just,
Oh,
and they've all been very good to Toronto. Like
that's
Drake is
good.
with the Raptors. The Weeknd built a incubator here for artists and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Man,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
see,
Yeah. The artists come back here. Those guys come back because really, if it wasn't for Toronto, shit wouldn't have happened.
yeah,
You
that's
know?
true. I love hearing it, man. They know.
Yeah.
They know where the
Yeah.
bread's buttered.
Oh,
I
exactly, man.
I
Exactly.
I just want to get back up there and be around good peeps again. I want to bring
Hey, man.
actually my oldest son is a rap hip hop artist, man, and
Okay.
I really really want him up there. I want him to get to meet good solid people up there, and
Mhm.
I think he'd fall in love with it. He's been around the world with me in other spots, but he's never been to Toronto or Montreal, and
Yeah.
I think he'd do well. He
Yeah.
wants
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah. Well, I've got a guy that works with Drake 50 Cent. He's a producer, but he's also an artist named Alpha. And have your son check him out on iTunes.
Sure.
He's got maybe about 3 or 4 songs on iTunes.
Okay.
And it's Alpha's killing. And if he
Right.
wants if he needs a producer, Alpha's the guy. Alpha
Dude.
is like, he's one of the guys here. And here they have more producers, like, because that old thing, like in Minneapolis, Prince didn't play out till he had to play out for a record company to see him because they weren't hiring black bands. And if you
Right.
wanted to get a gig, you better know how to play Def Leppard, not Sam and Dave,
Right.
And so everybody did. That's why they all knew how to rock, because they weren't working unless they could play Def Leppard and U2. Right. And all the other hot rock songs of the day, as well as maybe what they wanted to do. And so that's why they all got good in Minneapolis, because they all played at home for so long and in the studio for so long. Well, here they've got so many producers and young artists that were going to be artists, but are now producers. And a lot of them are better being producers than they were artists. And Alpha is great at both.
Wow.
He's really, this kid's really good.
You know him.
He's really good. Yeah. I
All
talk
right.
to him all the time. He's going to be on the show with me tomorrow.
Really?
And he's going to come on the show. I got Alpha.
Is he on at the same time that we are?
Probably before or after. Probably before. And we're just going to play one of his songs. And Jay Douglas. I invited Michael Sadler from Saga. I don't know if he's going to show up. The guys from the Box may show up. Nice. And I just left it open, man. Just come. I'm just putting it out there. Have you seen the film Rumble?
I have not.
You got to see the film Rumble. The director of that film, Alfonso, he's going to be on. It's one of the best rock and roll films. Rumble is about Link Wray and the native connection to blues and rock and roll and black music. It's really quite special, and a whole thing on Link Wray, man, which will just blow your mind. And they bring in the guys from Redbone and all Stevie Silas and all kinds of folks. People don't they think Robbie Robertson, okay, native guy and rock and roll and stuff, but no, there's been a lot. There's been a ton.
Stevie is Pondo's cousin. So Pondo, our bass player from Flock, they're cousins. And it's funny. So I've got such a funny connection that Stevie had a band with Melvin Brannon from the Dan Reed Network. And Dave Aberzees from Pearl Jam, drum from Pearl Jam.
Okay.
So Melvin and Dave are coming on this show in like a week. But I had no idea how connected Stevie Salas was.
Yeah.
He's out with like the biggest names right now.
Man. He did Walk the Dinosaur. He did that. And that's when I met him, was when he did that. And we just kind of hung out. And then I did his documentary. I did. I didn't do it, but I was in it. He asked me to do something for him. Dude, what do you want? I'm good. Yeah, sure.
Don was,
and just Don was. Their singer just passed. Sweet Pea Atkinson. He just passed. There's an album called Forever Is a Long Time, Don Was Orchestra. Okay. And check that out. Everybody's on there, from Chris Christopherson to whomever. There's country there. Everybody's on there, but the tracks, man, are just like,
Yeah.
It was just incredible.
I got to
Just-
come back and watch this whole interview to take notes on all the. I love it, man. This is good stuff. Like,
Oh man, we can do this anytime. You just
know,
let me know. You know,
I'm looking forward to it, man. And we're
Yeah.
hanging a little bit tomorrow because we're all
yeah. You're
celebrating-
gonna
we're
come on the
celebrating your
show.
birthday.
Yeah. My birthday's on Saturday, but like I said, I'm starting early, man.
Yeah, as it should.
I'm starting early, you know. So drop all those presents in the mail.
That's right.
Don't worry, even if it's late, I will take them.
That's good, man. Yep. I'll just save up a big birthday hug for me next year.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that'll be great. So look, you tell Michael I said hi because I don't know when he's coming through or what's he doing now. Is he traveling or is he
He just came back to the US a couple of days ago, and
he's going in quarantine?
he is, and I think he's going right back to the UK because all the shows that we had here are canceled. You know, so
Oh, really?
yep.
So he actually should have stayed home.
Yeah, but he had to come home. He's got a property in Florida, and he had to take
Okay.
care of, there's some stuff that he had to do. So I don't know too much other than, it's probably good for him to escape either country for a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I just, I'm missing playing. I think.
Yeah.
I think we all
Well,
are.
everybody is, man.
Yeah.
Everybody is. So
It's
I'm
nice.
surprised you guys haven't done one of those online things. Did you? You haven't done those yet?
Not as a collective, no.
Okay.
Everybody did little parts, but
Mhm.
we're gonna find the right way to do it.
Yeah, you do have to find the right way to do it. Something that speaks to you and your fans, and something that is that bounces.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That makes it. Something's got so much fun to it or energy to it that it comes across the screen the way
Totally.
that you really want it to. Because
Yeah.
that's the hard part. Once you put it on this screen, it becomes television, whether you like it or not.
That's true. It stays forever.
Yeah,
So many
yeah.
sound bites, Michael. Man, you're the king of sound bites. We need this. I love it, man. Happy
Oh, man.
birthday month to
Thank you. Thank you very
It's
much.
this Saturday, and a fresh 29 years old, man. You're looking really good.
Yeah, a fresh 5.
Man, I feel like I went to school, buddy. This was so much education and so fun.
Oh man, well, thank you. I'm really glad we could do this, and
Thank you.
Barbara could set this up and everything. That's great. And tell Pondo I'm looking forward to talking to him tomorrow.
You got
And a
it.
lot of people are going to be coming by tomorrow. I don't even know if we're going to have time to play tunes because it's going to be like one person after another, which
That's the
that
way
ain't,
birthday
that
ought to
ain't a
be.
bad thing. That's the way it should be.
Your birthday's Saturday. Pondo's birthday's on Wednesday. So you guys, you're gonna share some Leo stories.
Oh yeah, his birthday's next Wednesday.
Yep.
Oh, cool,
A week from
cool.
Today, yeah. So
Oh, good, man.
we'll sing happy birthday to both of you.
All right, man. Good.
Hey,
Thank you very much, man. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
I'm so glad to see you, buddy. Stay healthy,
Hey.
man, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Happy
Yeah.
early birthday. Thank you, man.
No
Michael,
problem. And
what
I'll
do
tell you the
say?
places that you can get across the border. There's places where you can walk across the border.
Let's do that offline right now. Thanks, buddy. I'll talk
Hey,
to
you
later,
take care, man.
Okay,
Thank
peace.
you.